Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Analyst. In this discussion, we will be talking about the most important articles from the Hindu and the Indian Express for 11th August 2023. The very first article will be looking at the appointments to the Election Commission of India, where a recent bill has been tabled in the Rajya Sabha regarding the appointments of the election commissioners. In the next article, we will be looking at how the Reserve Bank of India paused the repo rates, and this is following according to the monetary policy transmission decisions of the RBI. In the third article, we will be looking at how the foreign universities are setting up their campuses in India, and it has been the Deakin University from Australia, which has become the first university from abroad to do so. In the next article, we'll be looking at the integration of NaVIC, India's own homegrown navigation constellation satellite system, and its linkages with Aadhaar enrollment devices. And finally, we'll be wrapping up the session with small cities and the various issues that China is being facing with this concept. Okay, now, to begin with the very first article, here we look at a recent bill which has been tabled in the Rajya Sabha. This is important. Why? Because in GS2, we have a syllabus topic known as appointment to various constitutional bodies and the posts wherein. So here we have the Election Commission of India, which for which a bill has been tabled, mostly concerning with the appointment structure in the commission. Here, the bill goes by the name of Chief Election Commissioner and Other Election Commissioners, Bill 2023, and this is actually going to change how the members of Election Commission of India are actually appointed. And in this, there will be no role of Chief Justice of India. Now, to look at the very first instance, what is Election Commission of India? We know that in a democracy, elections are the lifeblood. Just like the blood which flows in through our body, we need elections which actually votes and bring in all sections of the population to bring in the votes of the system. And it is the Election Commission of India which will be bringing in the harmony of conducting elections freely and fairly. According to Article 324 of our Indian Constitution, the Election Commission of India is primarily responsible for conducting elections for the Parliament, state legislatures, Office of the President and Vice President of India. Now, in this respect, I want to talk primarily on the appointment debate according to the Election Commission of India. Now, in India, the President appoints the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioners of India. So there are generally 2 election commissioners and 1 Chief Election Commission in India. As of now, the Law Minister, what she does is she will be recommending a pool of candidates to the Prime Minister for their consideration. Now the Prime Minister will be forwarding this name, only one name out of this pool of candidates, to the President, and it will be approved for the appointment of the CEC or any other EC member. Now, there are no qualifications prescribed for this. What will be the qualification of any member? It has not been explicitly mentioned in the Constitution. And what has been mentioned is the tenure. The tenure is 6 years or up to the age of 65 years of that particular candidate. And this will be according to both the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioner. Now, they can resign anytime, right? If they want to resign, they can resign anytime. And in case of the CEC only, he or she can be impeached as in the process of a Supreme Court judge, right? And the election or the other 2 election commissioners, they can be removed on the recommendation of the CEC, right? And there will be no debarring of any retiring EC members or EC election commissioners, right, for their further appointment, and this is according to the Constitution. And their status, salary, perks, and the removal of the CEC is equal to the judge of a Supreme Court. And finally, if there are any differences between themselves, the decision will be taken by a majority. Now the thing is that the appointment of any constitutional body is the primary mark of the independence of that particular body. In this case, we have seen that the Prime Minister is involved, the Law Minister is involved, right? And also, there has been no certain qualifications for this particular matter. Now, accordingly, in 2015, a public interest litigation was actually forwarded to the Supreme Court regarding the validity or the constitutional validity of Centre picking up the candidates for Election Commission. In 2018, this court itself, the Supreme Court itself, referred this matter to a larger bench for examination of Article 324. Now let us look at the Article 324 subclause 2, wherein it is being said that the Election Commission shall consist of Chief Election Commissioner and such number of other Election Commissioner if the President may time to time fix, and the appointment of the CEC and other EC shall subject to the provision of any law made in behalf by the Parliament. So it is a very important thing that Article 324 subclause 2 is actually giving the power to frame any law to the Parliament in accordance with this article. Since there was no law in 2023, in the March of month, in this year only, Supreme Court intervened and they said that there shall be a high-powered committee consisting of whom? The Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition of the Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India, who will be selecting from the pool of candidates the Chief Election Commissioner and also the other EC or election commissioners. Now here the Supreme Court observed that since the Parliament did not frame any law, it was actually a convention which was going on. There was a constitutional vacuum which the Supreme Court filled. And also, according to the Constitutional Assembly debate, the Supreme Court felt that the founding fathers of our Constitution did not intend the executive exclusively calling the shots in matter of elections, which is a very important parameter for democracy. So, the Supreme Court felt that in this appointment procedure, the Supreme Court could have a little hand because according to the debates, they felt that the executive was not the only exclusive power in this matter. So, to nullify or say to overturn the judgment of 2023 by the Supreme Court, this bill was actually brought, and also to also fill the vacuum that has been actually expressly said in the Article 324 subclause 2. So the recent bill is addressing this matter only. How it is addressing? It is proposing a search committee. This search committee will be consisting of the Cabinet Secretary and also two other secretaries. Now, they will be forwarding a panel of 5 persons. They will be selecting a 5 persons, right, who are well addressed or well versed with the situations of Indian elections, and also they will be people from high integrity and of good faith in public life. So they will be prepared, or their list will be prepared, and it will be forwarded to a selection committee. Now in this selection committee, there will be our Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and a Cabinet Minister. Now in this arrangement, it has been made a 2-part stage. First part will be the search committee, second will be the selection committee, and the bill is actually doing this by the force of law. Now the force of law is being brought. Now is the bill justified? Absolutely, because Parliament have the power according to Article 324 subclause 2 to bring in a law that will be governing the same. So Parliament is absolutely within its jurisdiction to do so. It is actually doing what? It is actually filling the vacuum that has been left by that article. And also earlier in 2023, in the month of March, Supreme Court actually wanted to fill the vacuum, And in doing so, it was also debated earlier that did the Supreme Court actually violate the separation of power? Did Supreme Court violate that? Maybe yes, maybe no. But now, since the law has been brought, now it is actually filling in that vacuum. But there has been some issues with it. What has been the issue? That before the selection itself, before the procedure actually begins, the leader of opposition is actually outvoted, because the Prime Minister and the cabinet minister will be preferably from the same political party with the same ideology, and it can be the thing that leader of opposition will be outvoted anytime. So this is an issue. The 2023 judgment, the Supreme Court that it delivered, the spirit was actually not to only deal the appointment with the executive only. That is why the judiciary also stepped in. So this would have been a good balance in itself. So the Supreme Court actually intended to bring the judiciary into the executive matter, where it could have brought in some harmony or balance. The next issue is that what will be the status of the members, because since now it has been delegated to the cabinet secretary and it will be now selected, they will be actually recommending a panel of 5 names. Now, what will be the status of the election commission or election commissioners or the chief election commissioners? Are they now reduced to the rank of a cabinet secretary, where they are actually as of now equivalent to a Supreme Court judge? Now, did this status diminish? Then it would be a very important, significant issue for the election commissioner, because it is the temple of democracy. And the officers of the election commissioner, they need to be held in high esteem. So there is also a question on the status of the members. And finally, the roles of the CEC and the EC are still not well delineated, where as of now the CEC still has more power over the EC, especially in terms of their removal, where CEC can anytime be motivated by the party of the day and issue removal for the other ECs. So there are still some questions regarding these lines, and in this the way ahead is that this bill can be modified in such a way that the 3 members in that final selection committee, such as the Prime Minister, leader of opposition and the cabinet member, they must be reaching a consensus. For example, if they're zeroing down on a particular candidate for the post of CEC, they all must say yes. Then only that person will be becoming that election commissioner, right? So it can be modified to that there can be a consensus manner. Secondly, that we must be trying to reduce the dependence of Election Commission of India on DOPT, Department of Personnel Training, Law Ministry and Home Ministry. So we must be reducing the dependence on these matters. Then the senior most election commissioner must be automatically becoming the CEC, right? So it can be the norm in this manner. Then the sanctity of Election Commission of India is very important. As I told earlier, it is a lifeblood of democracy, right? It is a temple of democracy. The election commissioner is also known as the Vishwa Guru of elections worldwide, because in India we are the largest democracy. We conduct the elections for the largest democracy. So we are the Vishwa Guru. So we have to keep the sanctity of the office of ECI also. And finally, since this bill has been introduced, let there be more debate. Let this debate be discussed by the committees, by the people, the public at large, so a fruitful outcome can be obtained. Right. Now, after this, we have a very important article from the RBI, where keeping an eye on inflation and the various risks on the financial side, the RBI has decided to not either increase or decrease the repo rates, and it has decided to keep the repo rates unchanged at, a particular percentage. Now this is important for GS3, where we have the Indian economy and the various issues with planning, mobilization of resources, and the context is that it has kept the repo rate constant at 6.5%. Now in this we have something known as the Monetary Policy Committee, which is actually deciding or taking the shots in this manner. Now, what is the Monetary Policy Committee? Let us look at this. See, Monetary policy is the primary role of central banks. It primarily means that we are more concerned with the supply of money and how that money is actually flowing in all sectors of the economy, especially for the economic growth of a particular nation, right? When we have effective money supply in the market, we will be ensuring that money or say capital or say investments are flowing to each and every sector, and it is also very important because it is ultimately the consumers who will be spending the money, and it will be at the end of the consumers where we will be seeing a particular phenomena known as inflation. When we know that when in an economy there is too much money flowing into the hands of the people, it will be leading to inflation. So also, monetary policy of the central banks primarily refers to also the control of inflation apart from monitoring money supply and monitoring the economic growth. Now in this, we have something known as the monetary policy transmission. This actually refers to how the decisions of the RBI is actually been translated into a real market or not. For example, say right now there is high inflation in the market. Now RBI will always want to reduce the inflation in the market. How it can do? It can do by increasing the interest rates in the market. If we increase the interest rates in the market, what it will lead to? It will lead to less and less demand of the funds by the people, right? And when people will reduce the demand of funds, it will reduce the liquidity in the market. So inflation will reduce. So in this manner only, the RBI uses various tools to actually measure monetary policy transmission. And in this, we have something known as interest rates, which I already discussed, which is very important for combating inflation. And also, the RBI actually balances its stances. Now, these stances are actually how we control inflation in the economy. This means that RBI will be having some mentality in mind that in the near future, I see inflation in such a manner. For example, RBI stances are divided into three types. The first is known as accommodative stance, where RBI is seeing that there is very low liquidity in the market, or say there is low money in the market. Since there is low money in the market, people are not spending at all, and the economy is suffering. So RBI will always want to increase the money supply in the market. In this, what RBI will do? RBI will either decrease the interest rates, or say it can sometimes even keep the interest rate same also. But majorly, RBI will be reducing the interest rates so that people can lend more money and can say spend more money, right? Now in the hawkish stance, the situation is totally opposite. The situation is that in hawkish stances, RBI will be increasing the interest rates. Why? Because there is an inflation in the market, which we discussed earlier. So anytime when there will be inflation in the market, RBI will be either increasing the interest rates, or sometimes with even high interest rates, RBI will be sometimes keeping the interest rate unchanged. So right now, we are kind of seeing that RBI is also revising some of the stances. We'll be looking in the later slides. Now, the last stance is neutral stance, where RBI can either increase the interest rates or decrease the interest rates, where the economy is kind of in a stable condition. So the RBI feels that it can do either of the two. Now in this, who is actually calling all the shots in this manner? It is the Monetary Policy Committee within the RBI itself which is doing that. Here we have three members from the RBI, including the RBI governor and the deputy governor, and another person from the RBI nominated by the RBI board. The other three members of the Monetary Policy Committee will be from the Government of India. They will be nominated from the Government of India, and note that these are not the officers. This will be some eminent professors in the RBI. Or say in the academic circles, right? Okay, now these members will be meeting a minimum of 4 meets per year. This is statutorily said, and usually what it does, it actually meets for 6 times in a particular year. That means every 2 months. So the meeting that we saw on 10th August That was actually one of those 6 times that the RBI Monetary Policy Committee met. And the outcome that we can see that over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings, the repo rate has been kept at 6.5. Before that, the repo rate was actually increasing since we can say 8/4/2022. So it was on an increasing trend since, but over the last 4 meetings we have seen that it has been kept unchanged. That means there is a certain pause over the MPC, right? Now the RBI has actually given us some of the information of the economy at large. The very first information that RBI is providing through his monetary policy committee meeting is that it is revising its inflation projection from 5.1% to 5.4% as of 2024. It is actually saying that in India we will be seeing hike in inflation, and the primary reason has been attributed to the rising vegetable prices, especially of the inflation in the tomato crops. And also in addition to this, RBI has observed that the uneven rainfall patterns which are ongoing in India as of now, especially there are also fears of a future El Nino weather event which can also impact the Indian agriculture sector. And in this situation only, due to these domestic factors, RBI is expecting that inflation will be kind of high over the rest of the year. Along with this, the global food prices are also seeing an uptick, upward trend in addition to the crude oil prices. Finally, the RBI also concludes that these inflationary scenarios are kind of in a short-term nature. This won't be long-term, or this won't be persistent over the long-term phenomena, because these are generally bottlenecks over the short-term only. Now, the next thing that RBI has been observing is that the monetary policy transmission, or say why the RBI has been keeping this hike in repo rate paused for 4 subsequent meetings, because RBI feels that the hike that RBI did over the last year, it is still in process. It is still in process, or the monetary policy transmission is still underway. Whatever the RBI actually sought for while it was increasing the repo rate, or say keeping it constant, the total objectives may not have been realized yet. That is why RBI is keeping the interest rates high at 6.5%. It is being paused at that because it is still underway. In addition to this, RBI also hiked, or say brought in the incremental CRR, or incremental cash reserve ratio, which typically means that over the months of say May to July, we have seen that we have been depositing the 2000 rupee notes in our banking system. Now these notes came suddenly into the banking system because the RBI said that these notes will be withdrawn. Now, since these notes came into the banking system, banks saw their liquidity increase. Banks saw that their deposits increase rapidly. Now, when liquidity will be increasing rapidly, this will leading to inflation. So that is why, for a temporary period, the RBI imposed a 10% incremental cash reserve ratio. It means that in addition to the 4% CRR which we already have, we have to keep an additional 10% of only the deposits that took between May 19th and July 28th. So between this period, whatever Indian banks saw the increase in deposits, we have to keep a 10% CRR on those particular months only. This will be reducing the liquidity further, and this will be aiding that monetary policy transmission. Also, the external benchmark lending rates have been kept the same, and this had been kept the same with the repo. This will be generally helping customers such as those who have taken the EMI transactions. They will not be seeing any charge or say increase in their EMI rates. right? And also finally, to aid further monetary policy transmission and to enhance digital payments, it has brought upgrades to the UPI ecosystem. The first upgrade is bringing artificial intelligence or the power of AI chatbots into UPI, where the system is still not clear because RBI did not clarify it further. It has been expected that we will be bringing chatbot-like features in our UPI. Finally, the UPI Lite, which is a special version of UPI to facilitate offline transaction. Here, the transaction limit has been raised from 200 to 500 rupees, and also we are enabling the NFC or near field communication for devices such as smartphone that have NFC to actually transact with UPI Lite. So this is a revolutionary change that RBI has brought in the UPI Lite system. So let us see how it actually translates into real life. Now, the way ahead in this matter is that we have to understand that the stance of RBI is that withdrawal of accommodation. That means definitely in the near future, RBI is not thinking to decrease the interest rate because the RBI feels that there is too much money in the economy as of now, right? So in this manner, the RBI will never think to decrease the interest rate in the near future. It will either again pause the rates or say increase the interest rates because it feels that there is too much money supply in the economy, and that is actually leading to inflation apart from other factors also. Now, in all the risks and all the endeavors that the RBI did, it still retained the real GDP forecast for India at 6.5% in 2023 to 2024. It is still confident that India can achieve this 6.5% growth rate. And finally, in the upcoming festival quarter of the months of say September, October, November, when the pujas and Diwalis will be taking place, RBI is confident that consumer spending will be increasing, and this will be leading to increase in the GDP of the nation also. Now, after this, we'll be looking at another significant article where the Deakin University of Australia has become the first foreign university to set up campus on Indian soil, right? This actually took place at Gujarat's Gift City, and this is important from our GS2 syllabus where we have education in this matter. Now the context is that it has actually set up shop in India, and it is very significant. Why? Because India has been trying to promote more and more foreign universities in our own soil. And also, according to National Education Policy 2020, it has been one of the recommendations that we must be trying to attract the foreign universities in India. Right? Now, to talk about Deakin University initially, it is actually ranked in 266th according to the QS University ranking. And it has become the first international branch campus or IBC to set up shop in India, and it has said that it will be charging almost half of the fee that it charges in Australia, and also it has introduced 2 postgrad courses in cyber security and business analytics that will be starting from next year June. Okay, now with regard to this, it was the IFSCA or International Financial Services Centers Authority which framed some guidelines for introduction of foreign universities in India. It is a statutory body which was set up in 2020 under the International Financial Services Centers Authority Act of 2019. So, it is a statutory body which actually gave the regulations, which we'll be looking at the next slide, and it is headquartered at Gujarat International Finance Tec-City, or also known as Gift City, which is a multimodal special economic zones. Now, this is a multi-services or multimodal special economic zone. This means that most of the foreign companies can come here and set up their shop, especially when we are talking about foreign universities also. This is exactly the reason they have come to the Gift City, right? Okay, now let us briefly look at the regulations which were framed by the IFSCA with reference to the foreign universities in India. The first, regulation is that it has to be within the top 500 QS ranking of world universities. The second is that it must be enabling infrastructure and also the promotion of science, technology, engineering and management disciplines in India. Third, it should be addressing the barriers. Firstly, with respect to fees restrictions, administrative control, that it should not have any restriction with respect to fees or administrative controls by the government. Then reservation policy must not be there with respect to foreign universities, and they can take profit back to their countries, right, without restrictions. The next regulation is that the course or programs which will be offered in India must be totally identical that is being offered at Australia, at US or wherever the universities are coming from. Then the IFSCA must have the right to inspect the university premises. The quality of the standards of teaching, it must be giving the rights to the IFSCA. And finally, according to the last guideline by IFSCA, in case of any withdrawal of foreign university from India, it must be giving a compensation to the students, and if possible, it must be also taking the students back to their home country and educating them at their own expense, right? Now, UGC or University Grants Commission also has recommendations, but they are in a draft format as of now. According to UGC regulations, the application has to be approved by 45 days. Now, within 45 days, any university's application has to be approved, and the initial approval will be for a period of 10 years, and it can be extended again, right? And there should be autonomy of fee structure, and no caps on fees must be there, and the faculty can be recruited from India also and from abroad also, and the courses must not be in the online mode or open or distance mode. It has to be a classroom mode only. And finally, according to the FEMA regulations and rules and the Act of 1999, the universities are also allowed to repatriate funds or profit from India to their country. So these will be the draft regulations which have not been approved by the UGC as of now, but these are the regulations concerning the foreign universities in India. And we can also see our own Indian universities in the QS rankings, where we have 3 universities which are within the top 300 or 200 in the world, right? Okay. Now, what are the outcomes? What are the expected outcomes of any foreign university which is be setting campus in India? The first is that it will be preventing money and brain drain. According to various reports, around $80 billion per year are being lost because Indians are actually going abroad to study. So this money can actually be used in India in itself, and we can save around this money. Then we can also prevent brain drain. For example, 4.4 lakh in 2016 to 7.7 lakh in 2019, where these are the number of students, Indian students, who are going abroad and actually settling in abroad. They're publishing papers, they're doing research abroad, which the Indian government or Indian people or Indian economy is losing at large. Finally, in India, we have a huge market of graduates and postgraduates, where 40 million students are actually pursuing higher educations. So these universities can be attracted due to this. Next, it can also improve the gross enrollment ratio, which is around 27% in India as of now. So we can also improve our gross enrollment ratio according to the National Education Policy 2020. And also, when we look at the cultural experiences that foreign universities bring, it can also facilitate the exchange of cultures between the foreign students, right? Then it will be ushering innovation, competition, especially when we look at the domestic industries. The universities can also collaborate on these matters. The research and developments which will be taking place in these universities can also be spillover to the rest of the private sector, rest of the Indian government universities, and also the private universities. And finally, this will be aiding the larger objectives of the National Education Policy of 2020, which is a beacon of hope for the education sector. But there are some concerns also. The first concern is with respect to quality. The first question is that will these universities be able to keep up the same quality that they have at Australia or at US in India also? The fees which will be quite high, can they be afforded by the Indian students or by the Indian middle class? This is a concern. Then there is also a concern of regulation, where we have seen the IFSCA has issued regulations while the UGC has also issued draft regulations. So there seems to be some overlapping of regulations in this matter. So it can be harmful for the foreign universities who will be investing in India at large. And finally, there are also security concerns also, where we have seen that sometimes there will be some foreign elements who will be trying to disrupt Indian political and social fabric. This can be brought in through the foreign universities also. So India has to keep this concern in mind. And finally, when we look at the way ahead in this matter, we have to appreciate that this is a pro-globalization stand that India is appreciating. India is actually moving on to the global standards of setting up foreign universities. So we are not actually closing our borders, we are opening education across the world. Then we must be encouraging collaborations with Indian universities and also the Indian private sector. This collaboration will be very important, especially for the students who are studying in these universities, right? And there should be increased outreach to the other communities of our populations, such as the vulnerable sections. They should be given more scholarships by the government so that they can also study at the foreign universities. So this needs active effort from the government at large. Then the investment of the revenue from the fees, that actually are collected by the foreign universities in India, we have to ensure that they are actually investing those revenue in India itself, and they should not be transferring entire profit to their countries. So we must be encouraging them also to invest something in India or to set up more and more campus in the rest of the states. And finally, we have to understand, since this is an exchange of foreign universities who are setting up campus in India, we have to appreciate that this will also lead to more and more better diplomatic efforts between the two nations, in this case between India and Australia, right? So we have to ensure that this is the particular way forward in this matter. Right. Now when we come to the next article, here we will be looking at a very significant portion of our syllabus, where we have science and technology and indigenization of technology. Here the NaVIC satellite system, which is a constellation of satellite, they will be actually used for enrollment of Aadhaar enabled devices. Now in this, the government is actually conceptualizing this matter, and also they have started to hold many pilot projects in this matter. But before this, let us see what is navigation with Indian constellation, or NaVIC in short. See, this is a system of 4 geostationary satellites, right? These will be geosynchronous satellites, and there will be 3 geostationary satellites. Geostationary satellites are particularly fixed over equator, right? And geosynchronous orbit or satellites will be fixed at any particular point or place over India in this matter throughout their life. So this means that these satellites, these 4 satellites, will be always looking at this particular point of our India. So this means that these satellites, when they are in a constellation, they can serve us a variety of applications. The applications are twofold. The first application is that it will be helping in standard positioning systems, which are meant for all users, which will be helping for, GPS or global positioning standard or system. Then the second type of satellite services it will be providing is encryption to the military services. Now, military systems or military establishments in India such as Army, Air Force, they also need communications, right? And they need safe and secure communication. So, the NaVIC also gives a separate channel of communication to military itself and only. And since this is Indian technology, we need not depend on any other nations. So, this is also perfectly safe for use in India. Right? And India is one among the 5 countries in the world to have its own constellation of satellites for its communication and GPS systems. Now, according to this, there are some recent developments. In 2019, all commercial vehicles in India mandatorily have to link itself with NaVIC, according to the Nirbhaya case judgment for the safety and security of women. Then, according to various industry experts, some companies such as Qualcomm is manufacturing compatible semiconductor chips which can support NaVIC communication system. And also, we are also looking at various 5G mobile phones which can also connect to India's NaVIC. Right? India is also promoting the use of NaVIC between SAARC countries such as Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, so that they can help, or so they can take help of the various applications of NaVIC, especially in cases of disaster management, right, and prediction of natural disasters such as floods, rainfall. And finally, we have also launched the latest satellite in this constellation known as the NVS-01, which is looking to enhance the L1 band of the satellite, which is trying to promote better and more precise GPS positioning, right? This will be trying to improve the technology that wearable devices such as wearable watch, trackers that they use the L1 band, and it is more sensitive and more accurate than the previous technology. Right? Now, coming to our topic, we are actually enabling the NaVIC in Aadhaar enrollment devices. That means the Aadhaar enrollment devices, that means when you go to a particular enrollment center of Aadhaar and you give your fingerprint ID scanner, so that is one enrollment device. Now those devices need to be tracked properly, need to be monitored and recorded properly. That is why we are now linking this with NaVIC. This will be trying to enhance the accuracy of the location data. Now, whenever we will be going to any Aadhaar enrollment center, we will be knowing that this is now connected to NaVIC and we can have the accuracy of the location data. Next, we can track the movement of people during natural disasters, and also we can monitor fraud that people often use using Aadhaar. Next, it will be reducing our dependency on foreign technology. For example, say India dependent on these particular enrollment devices on some technology from China or US, then it will be we will be dependent on foreign technology. So it will be reducing that. Next, it will be increasing the efficiency of Aadhaar enrollment processes and also eliminating the need for manually registering the GPS. That means you have to go, or you as an officer, you as a field officer, you have to go to an enrollment center, manually open your mobile phone, tag the location and then go away. Now in this, the devices already have the NaVIC compatible software chips, so it can automatically be detected. And finally, it will be improving the security of Aadhaar data, right? Now, according to this, we have the last article, which is regarding China's sponge cities. This is very important because in GS3 we have a topic known as disaster management, where sponge city is a very interesting concept. But this thing is not working out in favor of China, right? But before that, let us understand what are actually sponge cities. Now, if we study this diagram very properly, we will be looking at one natural event known as rainfall. Now we know we get a bounty full of water from rainfall. Now we can do what? We can conserve that water. We can efficiently use rainwater. How? We can use rainwater for our daily household needs. We can do rainwater harvesting. We can help those rainwater go into proper channels such as canals, ponds. Also, the wetlands that we have in our cities and villages, we can repair the wetlands so that the rainwater can collect in these ponds, reservoirs, and we can take drinking water from that. And also, now when we talk about the concept of sponge city, we have to imagine a sponge first. Now, when we pour, some water over sponge, we see that the sponge totally absorbs the water inside it. It means that on the outside, we do not see any flooding of water. Everything has been absorbed by the sponge. Similarly, the city or any city which has been designed in such a manner where each and every drop of the rainfall has been absorbed by the ponds, by the wetlands, by even the asphalt or the roads, right? By the canals. It has been totally absorbed and it has been totally retained in the soil underneath, in the various channels underneath, which will automatically be purifying water and we will be utilizing that water. In this matter, we have to understand that we use various things. For example, we use canals, ponds, we use concepts such as green roofs, or on the tops of buildings we can see here, we have green patches where we have proper soil, proper gravel, and we have plants growing on top of buildings where these plants can absorb water. We also have something known as rain gardens. Rain gardens are particular parks like this. A famous example is the New York City Central Park, which is a particular rain garden where the place is kind of like this depressed, right? This is the depression, where most of the water from the city comes, and we have planted various tree species overneath here, and all the drain water or storm water, all the excess rainwater comes here, and it can enter the groundwater, and also it can collect in this particular depression. So this is a particular rain garden where all the particular water collects. So this is a very beautiful and sustainable concept to actually reduce flooding incidents in cities. But the thing is that China actually wanted to go on a pilot project and implement the sponge city concepts in all of its cities which experience flooding. But it was not seen. In recent times, this is a particular image from Hubei province of China, where we can see all of the location has been totally flooded. Now, in this condition, we have to understand the thing is that if we only conceptualize the project, but we do not implement it, right? It is a particular problem. So this was actually the thing that happened with China. It conceptualized everything, but it did not implement it properly. The thing is that for anything to be this of this magnitude, of this big magnitude, right? Sponge city or a city large concept, this needs huge resources and mostly it needs legislative backing. It means that we need some laws enforcing this particular thing. Then we have seen in the case of China that minimum attention has been spent on building proper canals, restoring wetlands, right? So there has been minimum attention towards these kind of things. And also rainwater harvesting, then green roofs, these would also need overall implementation. And finally, apart from the implementation causes, there has also been adverse weather conditions where we have been seeing right now increased rainfall. Due to increased rainfall, we have been seeing more and more flooding incidents in not only China but also all across the world, especially in cities, in Indian cities also. So increased weather events actually exacerbated this cause, right? So nevertheless, the issues we can also learn from this particular project to be implemented in our Indian cities also with proper lessons learned from China, right? Okay, so with this I conclude my session. I thank you all for attending the session and hoping you all the best for your endeavors. Till then, we will be meeting again. Thank you.